The World Health Organization recommends that infants should be exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months of life to achieve optimal growth, development and health thereafter to meet the increasing nutritional requirements. Now, infants should receive timely, nutritionally adequate, appropriate and safe complementary foods while continuing to breastfeed for up to 2 years or beyond. However, this is not the case. According to the 2014 Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, more than 1 in every 5 children, that is 22%, do not receive the minimum acceptable diets, putting them at increased risk of malnutrition. It's equally good to note that malnutrition is a leading cause for illnesses, deaths, and hospital admission among infant and young children. That's why on this edition of Front Row, we discuss the gaps and the way forward when it comes to infant and young children nutrition. Good evening, I'm Ashley Mazuri. Let's meet our panelists. Now, next to me, we have Dr. Mary Mwale. She is the head food security unit at the Ministry of Agriculture. Next to her, we have Martha Nyagaya, who is the Country Director of Nutrition International Kenya and equally the Chair of SUN CSA. And last but not least, we have Immaculate Nyaugo, who is the Nutrition Advocacy and Communications Manager, Ministry of Health. Thank you very much for making time to join us, and good evening. Good evening. So I'll just start by asking the basic of questions, and I'll start with you, Immaculate. If you look at the statistics, 1 in 4 children in Kenya are stunted. That is around 26%, estimated to be 2 million children. And we equally have 4 in every 10 children who are not exclusively breastfed. Where are we getting it wrong?
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you so much, Team KTN, for allowing us to come and shed some light on this. This is actually a problem that Kenya as a country, we are grappling with. We have what we call malnutrition in all sorts. We have several indices, and you've just mentioned 1 or 2 that stunting is one of them. We realize that to be able to talk about malnutrition, we are supposed to be talking about how well should a baby be fed. Okay. And the first, for instance, when a baby has been delivered, immediately breastfeeding should be initiated within the 30 minutes or so after birth, irrespective of what circumstances the mother is. Once the baby comes out, initiation of breastfeeding should just start, with breast milk or without. Then exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months should be done, and should be done with a lot of skills so that we are able to do it accurately, where the breast milk is able to supply the nutrients that the baby needs. Yeah. Then after that, 6 months, if a mother does not introduce complementary feeding, then the baby will be malnourished. So it is important that the mother also should get appropriate skills to be able to complement the breast milk as they still continue to feed the baby. Not considering other factors that go with it, the hygiene, the surrounding, who is taking care, the caregiver, all these people should have skills to be able to feed the baby. And that is when, as a country, we can be able to say that we are progressing. But we have also seen that from the Ministry of Health, we have done a lot in the area of exclusive breastfeeding. Yeah. And so we realize that when the babies are in need of other foods, then we have noted that the other foods we have not focused. I would say we had not focused much, and that is why we have only 22% who are getting the adequate diet that they need. And so if we go back to last week or some time back, we decided that can we focus on now feeding the baby after the breastfeeding, so that we are able to reduce the malnutrition incidences that crops in.
At what age, when you say feeding the baby after breastfeeding, at what age?
At 6 months. In fact, we always prescribe 180 days to be specific. Okay. Then the baby is able to digest other foods apart from breast milk. Okay. And we are supposed to, or we always take the mothers through all the processes, the skills that are necessary, so that before the 180 days, so that the mother gets adequate preparation, prepares herself psychologically that this baby at this particular period, I should be able to access other products that I will be able to give the baby apart from the breast milk.
Okay.
And we always say that there's no other food that the baby requires apart from the food that is found in the household. So it is from the mother's pot that she should be able to know how to prepare the food that they always eat at the household to make it nutritious in a certain consistency that the baby is able to swallow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mother, coming to you, the first 1,000 days are usually key, but many people don't know this. Maybe you can just take us through what's needed to be done during those first 1,000 days.
Thanks, Ashley, and thank you for having me. Let me just try and put this issue into context. So you have mentioned that we have about a quarter of our children stunting.
Yeah.
Stunting is a manifestation of malnutrition that is irreparable. Once a child is stunted, they're stunted. There's nothing you can do if you do not intervene in the first 1,000 days. Mm-hmm. So the first 1,000 days is the period from the time the woman gets pregnant to the time the child is 2 years. Now, the manifestation of malnutrition that we talk about, called stunting, has to do with the child becoming too short for their age, and it's attributable to prolonged inadequate dietary intake.
Yeah.
This child is not just too short for their age, but they are also having brain development that is affected by bad nutrition. So if you look at the brain of a child who is stunted and the brain of a child who is not stunted, the brain of a child who is stunted is not formed properly. Now, the most significant thing about the first 1,000 days is that when a child is born, the brain is about the size of a 500 milliliter water bottle. By the second year, the brain is double that size. And for the rest of the life, the brain develops again another double that size.
Yeah.
So the period of rapid brain development is the first 1,000 days. If we don't get it right in the first 1,000 days, then we cannot correct it after those 1,000 days.
Yeah.
And so that's why we focus on the first 1,000 days. Now, during that first 1,000 days, there are recommended interventions that if we do not follow, then the child gets stunted. Mm-hmm. And the first one is during pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Now, the challenge we have as medical practitioners and public health workers is that when our women get pregnant, we need to start intervening immediately to ensure that they get the right nutrition for the baby when the baby starts forming. The challenge we have is that our women do not get pregnant the previous night and come tomorrow morning and say, I got pregnant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they come towards the last stages of pregnancy when it's too late to intervene. So one of the main interventions is to find pregnant women early in the first trimester and start providing nutrition counseling early through the pregnancy. So what are we trying to prevent during that period? It is giving birth to a child with a low birth weight.
Yeah.
Once we get it right during pregnancy, then as soon as the child is born, as Immaculate says, we initiate breastfeeding. And initiation of breastfeeding in the first 48 hours is very important because the first breast milk, called colostrum, cleans the gastrointestinal tract. And we've seen it with animals. When a goat is born, before they get breast milk, they are very weak. As soon as they breastfeed, they get up and can walk. And you know, breast milk is for the baby. All those other milk, cow, goat, is for those animals. So we say in circumstances where a mother is able to breastfeed, breast milk provides all the nutrients a child needs. Breast milk is in the right temperature. Breast milk is free from germs and is always available. And most importantly, breast milk has what we call probiotics that build the immunity of the child. You cannot get that from any other milk.
Yeah.
So initiation of breast milk within the first 3 hours is very important.
But is that always the case, really?
That is not always the case, particularly in private hospitals. And you know, our young people, for many reasons, also do not prefer to breastfeed.
Yeah.
You will hear a girl saying they don't want to breastfeed because they don't want their breasts to fall. One, because they don't have information on the benefits of breast milk for their child and for themselves now and in future. Because then breast milk also reduces the chances of getting things like breast cancer. It delays return to fertility.